That's a lot of pressure. It's also true of the other team. I don't know. I'm not good at team names.
They're duplicate sealed specifically. So we have a big pool of cards and we're building 3 decks out of it. For every card in the pool, it can only go into one person's deck or sideboard.
90 minutes to build. 50 card decks with individual sideboards of 12 cards each.
The card pool is interesting relative to like other drafts, and it feels very like fundamental in terms of Magic, where it's like a lot of these like very classic core archetypes of the like mono red, blink, mono green, like black sacrifice.
It felt like a powerful pool. It's like you're looking at this pool, there's all these different like kind of options for where you could go. You're tempted by certain color combinations. You're trying to suss out where the power is.
I think like red green, I feel, because it's just like not fighting over the same green piece.
Yeah.
Like the green cards they want are pretty distinct.
It's way bigger than even like 2 or 3 sealed pools worth of cards. So there's a lot to look through, a lot to read through.
What immediately jumped out to me was a burn deck, because there was a lot of red direct burn. Lightning Bolt, Stoke the Flames, Firebolt, but then the top end, like Devil's Play.
There was like the mono red burn package. There was like the black sacrifice type stuff. But then like on the multicolor side, there was like Kess, Siege Rhino, Herd Migration. This deck was interesting. Like Kirk pretty like immediately gravitated towards like the Flicker deck, which like I feel like we didn't
even talk about it.
Flicker deck that much.
Did we talk
Like
about
I don't remember
last
seeing
Cubecon?
Like I don't remember seeing the Soul Herder, you know,
And the Cloud Race.
I considered Blue Eye Control. I considered Esper Reanimator with like Umbrella Rights, Angel of Despair, like the old school called Solar Flare decks. Draw cards, discard, and bring it all back.
Well, you're just trying to balance a lot, and we feel like we had a lot of cuts to make. Yeah.
How many cards?
Is ICU Manipulator no longer good enough in limited?
I was about to say.
Like,
I think
it's
it
so-
might. Yeah.
I'm so being such an old school player. This was like pick one, pack one type card, but it's like
That's my advantage. I've only been playing for the past couple of
maybe when you
years.
guys could use this better, just because I need to cut cards.
Well, we all need to cut cards is the funny thing.
And I was pretty deferential in terms of like card evaluation stuff, because a lot of the cards I was familiar with but hadn't played before, like Grim Lavamancer. I know that card was good. I'd never actually activated it before, had it on the battlefield.
I think in our team, we did a really cool thing where when someone had a cool deck idea, we would just rotate seats. What's your input on this? Which cards stand out as really strong? Which cards didn't work out?
Do you want Ravenous Rats?
maybe.
I don't think I want it.
Try to get the edge out of someone. You try to like, you want them to play the archetype they're most happy and comfortable playing. Get that extra 1% edge to be able to make the better decision on a certain turn or a certain card.
We like aggro rather than this like sort of more mid-rangey deck.
I think this card is better than Crystal Dragon. You don't have a ton of artifacts, champs, or legendaries.
Yeah, it's just for the this one.
Drafts is all like, in your own head and like make the right decision, but having it be super collaborative is just something that you don't really get as much in Magic in general. That was really, really rewarding for me, for sure.
The 50 card affected my thinking way more than I realized, just because there's all of these little metrics that I have that are so attuned to 40 card. So certainly things like number of lands, but then like all of these like, oh, how many removal spells do I have? Oh, that has to be a little bit higher. What's my creature count?
We had to consider that our opponents are also building from the same pools. What are our opponents likely to build, and then how do our decks match up against that?
I guess it becomes really interesting, especially in the first round, where you know all the possible outs that they might have. Like, there are 3 Rafts, I've seen 2 of them. He might have 1 more or 1 in sideboard, and those can be really rewarding to play around. It's a really cool form of skill expression.
Well, I had Counterspell in hand, and I was like, do I counter the Squadron Hawk? And I'm like, I mean, I have Lingering Souls, if you want to just play a bunch of 2-mana 1/1s, you can do that.
In Conflux Limited, Malfagor is like first pick, pack one, oh my god, I win. But it's not like that anymore.
It's Esper Control versus Factory too good. And then I could just rancor the next creature I made with Mishra's Factory. So it was like a long grindy game, just like 8 mana, put a 2/2 into play every turn, ended up being enough with rancor to get over the finish line.
Turns out Factor Friction years later is still backbreaking.
Kept a 2-lander and then hit Runner Land off the top. So I was like, everything's good.
Curse Girl was so brutal. When Ben played against me on turn 1, I was like, oh yeah, that card is in the pool. Because we had kind of completely glanced over it. And then it's just like extra brutal because when he does have like one card in hand, he just gets to name the one card in hand. So if he goes like, activate Curse Girl, name Zulaport Cutthroat, and I just know I'm so screwed at that point.
Starting off with Llanowar Elves into Croson Tusker cycle is just like, that's a great start. Doesn't get better than that.
The Crypt Angel. Crypt Angel as well. Crypt Angel. Go Crypt Angel.
Go Crypt Angel.
I decided to include it as one of the 12 cards in the sideboard. It's obviously going to be a house against white decks, but while we're playing my deck, getting back Cloud Razor is insane as well. I wish you can get back Null Drifter. You can't, but that's okay. You got Mull Drifter.
It was really interesting. Makes me want to consider curating my own duplicate sealed pool. I love team sealed in general. I would also love to just try this again. I think like I would try to go down a different route. There's a lot of interesting directions to take this.
Try to think of one card that you wish you didn't play.
What card I didn't play?
There wasn't a single card where you're like,
My next. I'm like going through my whole.